you at? I came here for vengeance, watch your back. No need to defend, I'm on attack. Sorry they can't reply, but I guarantee they had a blast. Pop, 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 I be on the next only, yeah, I am fresh to death.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Long Haul Mentality. I'm your host, as always, Nick Bagley. And today I got my UK homie, Frank Carroll, here. How are you, man?
Good, bro. New Zealand.
New Zealand. Shit. I thought it was I knew I was going to fuck that up at some point. New Zealand, man. All right. So I had that one mixed up in my head. The fucking time difference for you has got to be a head fuck right now, huh?
Yeah, it's a bit. I think it's around 16, 17 hours difference.
Yeah, I was surprised to see you guys in the gym the other day.
Yeah, you know, man, you just got to hit the ground running, bro.
Yeah, but it's probably also good that you got here as soon as you did, since it takes some time with all that long of a flight. How long does it take you to get here?
Yeah, it's like a 12, 13 hour flight from New Zealand to Houston and then connect to Dallas. And yeah.
Oh, but it is direct from New Zealand to Houston?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's nice. So that does work out. But 13 hours sitting in a small aircraft as large as you are definitely sucks.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely a challenge at will, man.
Well, you got here, man. So we're happy to have you, dude. But, dude, I have to say you've fucking put on a lot of size since the last time I saw you. I was like, Jesus Christ, this guy's gotten huge.
Yeah, man. Yeah, no, we've definitely chucked on a bit of weight. I guess I just got inspired being here last year at the Olympia and stuff, and decided, yeah, now I want to lock in on do it. And man, I just got really intentional with the food and the recovery, and that's been the biggest change.
Yeah, because I remember us talking last time I saw you here, and you were kind of somewhat just coming back and being like, you know, I had decided to hang up competing and stuff, and then you were talking about like getting that fire back, like back then. So like I can definitely see you got that fire back, that's for sure.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's why I kind of said to you as well, right? Because you know, been thinking about having the break and stuff too, and I'm like, yeah, I thought I was going to have a break. I thought I wasn't coming back, but it got the better of me.
Right. Dude, it's funny because I have some plans to do a transformation starting the third week of August, and I'm going to do like a 12-week thing. And in my head earlier, I was like, all right, what month is 4 weeks after August, and what shows are around? I'm like, no.
Yeah. It's
but what's been some of the biggest differences with, like, how do you feel going back into it now? Is it like a little easier this time? Was it harder than last time? How are things going?
It's going a lot better, man. I think also, you know, just, you know, life's as well. And I think that, you know, in the time that I, you know, decided that I wasn't going to compete, I focused on my work and my career, and, you know, I got ahead in life, and that's definitely put me in a position now where, man, I can be more present in my pursuit with it. I can take more time. I can afford it better. It's, you know, and so all of those things come together to make it a lot more, I guess, congruent and conducive. There's other stresses that are less now. So yeah, I kind of just feel like being in a better position has helped me to enjoy it more. I also know that I can enjoy it. I've done well, so it's not like I'm worrying about I should be doing other things. In a good balanced position, and it's cool to be able to, you know, really do something that I really did love doing before, but do it better. So yeah. It's been easier.
That's good. I love to hear that, man. It's definitely so interesting how, like, you know, most people's perception of competing is just like you do it every year. You do it all the time. Like there's not really time off. And as soon as you take more than a year off, people just kind of like assume that you're done, or they forget about you. Right. Yeah. Which you can't blame them. There's so many people that are competing, but it's so interesting how just some time away from something that you love so much can be massive. Right. It's not even just that, like, your body is fresh, which it was, right, which definitely I'm sure helped out a lot. But the other aspects that you touched on there that, like, I've brought up so many times in this is, like, you were mentally better, your stomach probably felt better, your relationships were better, your money was better. Like, all of those things are factors within this, right? And, like, Kudos to the people who can, like our friends who compete at the highest levels that do it literally every year, where they get like a couple of months to be somewhat normal. It's like, kudos to you guys, because I would have lost my shit a long time ago. But it's really refreshing to hear that, and it's again interesting because like I'm not trying to get as big as I used to be anymore. So like if I do ever compete again, it's just going to be because I want to, not because I'm chasing going pro and that sort of thing. But I'm getting like that itch again of like locking in, and like I'm feeling really good on my diet, like I'm knocking my cardio out, and I'm like really getting into this groove again where it's like, that's what the fuck that felt like.
That's it, man. It's it's funny. I guess you see a lot of posts that will say that this lifestyle is not healthy, but you know what you feel like in your life when you are in pursuit of this, and bro, the larger part of it is that like this is conducive to a healthy life. Man, the structure, the routine, the rhythm. I mean, people can say what they want about the food, man, but the reality is like the food that we get to eat, the food that we do eat to do this is the food that is best for us.
Right.
And so like when people are going to say it's unbalanced, it's like, how do you balance chocolate cake and chicken, man? Like that's, we didn't need to get to this point. Like we evolved without that. And so how do we still need that to feel like we are balanced and complete and fulfilled? And so it is, man. When you take that break from it, you start to respect how it is, again, conducive to being able to grow and push in every other area of your life as well, and just how much, healthier your whole life gets.
Yep. Yeah, bodybuilding can for sure be healthy. It's the thing that makes it unhealthy is the extremes, right? Like when we're looking at chasing something at the higher level, like, you're going to have to get a little ridiculous with some stuff, but like the bare bones basics of bodybuilding is the best. Like it's the way to do things. It's the way to stay healthy. It's the way to stay strong for a long period of time. And not even just physically, but just keep your brain in check, man. Just the reality of like how good I feel after I do cardio. Sure, I might be tired, but like there's that pressure where it's like, damn, I feel good. Like, all right, cool. I did something,
That's
something good to feel productive.
Yeah. That consistent, eustress that's going to continue to, put you under pressure, under load. That's good for you to keep you leveling up. It's one of the reasons why I chose this, I guess, the sport, this lifestyle, was because compared to other sports, I could see that I could do this for longer.
Yeah.
Even if I wasn't competing anymore, I could still do this. Whereas when it's, another, say a contact sport, when your time is done, your time is done. And you see a lot of people in other codes struggle with that. Yeah. So.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, it's pretty common of like, there's a ton of coaches who were not great athletes, right? And then as soon as they're done, like, oh, I'm not going to compete, I'm just going to coach now. They kind of just stop, right? And like, just because they weren't a great athlete doesn't mean that they can't be a great coach, right? Yeah. But I do think it's like a little weird almost to me of like, okay, why did you bodybuild then? Why did you? Obviously, you didn't enjoy it enough. If like you just immediately gave it up as soon as the stage wasn't a thing for you anymore, right? And it's like I'm not as heavy as I used to be, but I'm staying in good shape. I'm still pretty strong right now. Like I like the way I look right now. It's like no, I'm not 265 anymore, but like I'm still bodybuilding. I'm still doing the thing. Like I'm still going into the gym, acting like I'm trying to build certain areas and that sort of thing, and changing my programming if I need. And I still do all the same stuff because I like how I feel, I like how I look. I want to not look like a skinny twig. I actually like lifting. It's crazy, man.
Yeah. I mean, if you enjoy it and then you continue to develop and grow, as a side effect to that, then like that's a bonus.
Yep, 100%. So before we get into the topic at hand, like you and I met through Gasp and Better Bodies at Destination, but to be completely honest, I don't know a lot about your backstory. Mm-hmm. So before we go into the conversation of the topic that you and I were going to discuss, can you give people a little bit of backstory on like who you are, how you started with this, and what you're doing now, and like some of your successes, like with your wife and such?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I won't go too far back because it's a long way away, but
I understand.
Time ago, but essentially, man, like I started out personal training, and I succeeded really well in that. I was only really interested in. I remember my business mentors at the time, telling me the whole like just, pick one niche, focus on that, and I just wanted to work with everybody. And I said I was going to work with everybody, man. I wanted, diversity. I didn't want it to get monotonous. So I worked with, mums, granddads, businessmen, sports people. I done really well on that. Within the first couple of years, I was up to doing 80 sessions per week. And I started from a place where I was starting from zero again. So, I got into doing it full time, and I just was so grateful to be doing it. So I wasn't, concerned about, although I had responsibilities to meet, I was so happy to be doing what I was doing. I think that passion just showed in what I was doing. The results came from that. And so then, the workload just multiplied and multiplied. Then inside of that window, I was always interested in bodybuilding myself. I actually used to compete in the INBA. This is quite a while ago. And I was fortunate enough, man, it must have been about 12 years ago now. I actually went to Vegas and compete at the Natural Olympia, that they call it. And that was kind of like a pivotal point for me, where like my eyes were just opened. I was this little kid from New Zealand, and I was just kind of like, whoa. It actually, I think it ran close to the actual Olympia. And so there were, other pros, from the IFBB that were there and just around Vegas. And so it was kind of just like, holy shit.
It's a big world.
Yeah, it's a big world.
What's going on, everyone? Going to take a quick break from the podcast and check in with my main man, Everett, here. You can see the red light on behind me. That just means one thing. We're going to promote some sponsors right quick. There are no paid sponsors or paid ads for this podcast. So anyone who's watching, I appreciate your support. I appreciate your time. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. Share this podcast with your friends. Leave a comment. It does help a ton. The other thing you can do is help support the sponsors that work with me. And you see I have my Labrada Pro Series line here. So we've got the Hydro, Glutamine, Creatine, and EAAs with some new pre-workout on the way. So if you like the podcast, you support me, use my code Bagley10 at checkout and get yourself a discount. Let's get back to the episode.
And I think that was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. It really this is, I guess, superseding that was just before I decided to go full-time into personal training. Again, because that I guess that bomb was dropped. Like, there's so much more to life. Like, you can really make it happen like this, with this, pursuing what you're passionate about. So, thank God. Yeah. So then for full-time personal training, was succeeding in that, was competing myself at the time, stepped into the IFBB as well. Back home back then, we don't have the NPC. It was just, although we do now from this year, it was straight into just like it was the IFBB Pro League New Zealand. I would say, like, just rename the NPC, and that's what we had there.
Okay.
And so inside of that mix, I have always had people that, I had a few people that was always interested in the competing side of things. So I used to tell people, man, that I was doing online stuff way before it was even a thing. I've just always had people interested in what I was doing and wanted to kind of follow suit. My personal training kind of got to a point where I had a huge wait list. I was starting to get more interest from athletes, but athletes were like maybe 5, 6, 7% of my total business. And but inside of that 5% was when I also started training Kate, my wife, as well. And that was kind of, I got into it initially with a couple of clients before her, because I was getting really pissed off with having to help people with the aftermath of not being prepped properly.
Yeah.
Particularly women. And I kind of just decided that instead of helping them after the fact, I wanted to get in front of it. And so because I'd worked with so many like women and, a lifestyle element with my personal training, I'd got to learn a lot about, females and their hormones and just hormones and how they function and different things that they face. So I guess I went into preparing athletes with, I guess, a lot of credentials, a lot of experience. And so my thing was, I focused on women first, although I did have a couple of younger guys in there as well. But my whole approach was like health first. And the whole thing with that was, I know, like, if you have a happy and healthy body, man, you can get it to do almost anything you want it to do. And so, yeah, I started succeeding pretty quickly, and the athletes that I had were happy and healthy. And then, yeah, Kate came along earlier on, and we turned her pro in her first year of competing. Since then, I've turned other people pro as well. But also, yeah, we went to Hawaii was her first international pro show, and she comes second to Ash K there. So kind of right off the bat, she was well recognized. That kind of, yeah, definitely put her in the spotlight a little bit. We come to, so that was the year before last year. So that was 2023, I think. 2024, we then, yeah, because we got good feedback from the judges at that Hawaii Pro Show, yeah, they encouraged us to come back here last year. So we did. We done 4 shows, and she won the Dallas Pro last year, beating Ash K. And
there we go.
Yeah, so we got the Olympia. She done well at her first Olympia as well. Got good feedback there. Worked on that. Come back here. Second show. Yeah, just recently qualified for the O again. So yeah, we're feeling pretty reassured, and
You must be onto something, man.
yeah.
So all that sets up the conversation that we were looking to have is about the female divisions, right? And like the different criteria, the different things that they're looking for. Like, what does it mean to be a bikini athlete? What does it mean to be wellness, figure, so on and so forth? And then also your second point about girls being like destroyed with food in both directions, right? So when you go through these different categories, and like say a girl comes to you and wants to compete in one of these categories and is kind of unsure of where she fits, how do you start to help them understand the path that they want to go down with that?
The first thing, like, I want to understand from them is, what have you seen in terms of competing? What class is it that you are aspiring to, or that has drawn you in, and or is that a factor, or would you want me to just tell you upfront what class it is that you should do? You just want to compete because you've seen it and you love it, and then kind of from there, if it's a person that say they want to do wellness, and they sign up, and it's like, right off the bat, they're going to need a couple of years to grow, because the criteria of wellness is going to demand some growth from them,
especially these days.
Yeah. Whereas if it's bikini, it's and I mean, now we've got fit model as well, and you can kind of present those two options. Obviously there's still a level of development, but it's kind of like, if you want to compete, you can kind of compete sooner, get that experience. But I'm always going to be looking at, like, their structure, and from there you have an idea, right, straight away of which division, which criteria, which category they're going to fit into. And then it's kind of like, so long as that's what they want to do, then you kind of shake hands and you lead on that way. There's also, the discussion of, like, let's start with this division, and if you enjoy it, then we progress up the divisions from there. Say if this is someone that wants to do figure, but again, they're going to need time to develop, but they want to compete, I think it's a conducive direction to start in bikini. So there's that. Where was I going to go with that? Yeah, I think that's
yeah. So when I think about the female divisions, I typically look at them in 2 categories, right? Like, nobody's going to mix up a bikini competitor and a physique competitor, right? Like, they're pretty different spectrums. But when we look at the 6, Jesus Christ, the 6 different categories, we can kind of break those into 2 groups of 3. That's what my brain was trying to do there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
So you've got fit model now, which honestly, you're probably going to educate me a lot on. Fit model, bikini, and wellness kind of fit into that category of, like, where do you land on that spectrum? And then you got figure, physique, and bodybuilding, right? Yeah. When we first look at things like fit model, bikini, and wellness, what criteria are you looking at when an athlete comes to you to figure out where they fit into that category?
Biggest one, structure off the bat. I think, what I know from my time now being in the pro division is, it's kind of, what I see is that there is definitely a kind of mold that seems to be preferred. And so, you know, if someone is taller, I know that they're going to probably struggle a lot to, you know, have a long career in, say, bikini, but they might suit fit model well, or if they want to develop, then they could probably fit figure pretty well as well. The other end of the spectrum of, I guess, you know, height is they're going to be better suited, then you may potentially be better suited to wellness, because they might have the ability. And like sometimes, man, you don't know until you start training them, and then you see actually how their genetics start to respond. I've definitely had some girls come and do bikini thinking that, yep, they're going to be good for bikini, and then just blow up. And then it's kind of like you try to slow them down and they still blow up. So,
Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of like, that's kind of where I guess I start first, is definitely from height. You know, I guess height, you know, with that, the structure is going to make up a lot. I also know that, you know, a taller person, this is the same with bodybuilding as well, requires so much more mass to make the you know, make them look right and fit the criteria. But then when you put a taller person on stage and they've got the muscle mass and the density to balance their physique out, and you put them next to, you know, say someone like Kate, they look humongous.
Yep.
And kind of like pushes them out of what the criteria is going to be. And so unless they're on stage with a whole lineup of taller girls, it's a little bit harder for them to have you know, a really successful career in bikini.
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely interesting how like you said, you can see somebody where you're like, oh yeah, this person will be great for this category, but then all of a sudden you're like, wow, this response is completely different than what I was expecting. Like,
Yeah.
I've worked with a number of girls who are like very adamant that they wanted to be in wellness, and then we start seeing the response and like the way their upper body responds. It's like, you should maybe think about figure.
Yeah.
Like, you should probably think about this with what we're seeing here, right? And that also comes down to whether or not that individual can, like, maybe their upper body responds really well, but their lower body's a little lagging, right? Maybe it doesn't want to respond that way. And with the amount of training that they have to do for their lower body and the density that these girls have in the legs now, like the glute tines that we're seeing on these wellness chicks is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, the side leg profile is just like, some of them make my legs look small, and I don't have small legs. Like,
Preaching to the choir, bro.
so it's like, sometimes you got to kind of steer those people of like, hey, look, I know you like this, but this is what your body's doing. We can do what you want, but if you want to be successful, this category probably lends better towards what your body's telling us.
Yeah. That's a big, yeah, definitely a big factor, as well as it's, you know, do you just want to compete or do you want to win?
Yep.
And I think you're doing your job as a coach to be a bit more firm on like, hey, you're going to suit this other class better. Yeah. It's, you know, you would have seen it so many times too, where you see an athlete that's upset and you know that they should have been instructed better. Like, what were they doing in that class, and why didn't the coach say something?
Yeah, and that goes double for the men's categories, right? Because it's like, how many times have you seen a guy in men's physique that it's like, dude, you're a bodybuilder. Dude, get the fuck out of the board shorts. Go do bodybuilding. And then the same thing with classic, right? Because there's so many people who are just, because they can make the weight cap, or staying in classic. And it's like, look, man, you don't have that kind of structure. You might be able to get really conditioned and you might have a really good physique, but you don't have a classic shape, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, your point you brought up of like how somebody's built, especially if they're taller, not lending towards classic. That is prime example. Me, right? Is like, I did classic in 2021, and like, I looked good. I was conditioned. Like, I pushed the guy who won the overall, but my structure next to his was completely different. And at 209, there was so many gaps in my physique that it was like, that's my cutoff, and we were at the cutoff. There's not much we're going to be able to do that's going to make my physique complete while still having that rate limiter on us of like, we can't be heavier than 209.
Yeah.
So it's definitely one of those things of like, sometimes you got to test out a class for a little bit and then realize like, hey, no, this isn't for me. But like you said, use it as a feeder, right?
Yeah.
All right. Right now you're not ready for bodybuilding, but we'll do classic physique for a little bit. Utilize the process of you getting shredded to rebuild you and get you bigger than you ever were before, and then grow into that next class. But going back to what we were talking about with the different classes, what differences in structure do you think lend better to fit model, bikini, or wellness?
I think definitely again. So like, if you're taller, then fit model, because they're not asking for that same kind of density.
Right.
And then I think also like the other cool thing with fit model is that, I mean, bro, I can see the class getting ultra competitive. I think that there's only been samples of it being executed properly so far. I think these girls are going to have a decent amount of muscle tone, but amount of muscle tone, a look that is definitely achievable to be done naturally, which is huge for people that want to be competitive, want to do this, but don't want to go down the route of PEDs. That's it's bikini, man. I think I think there is a slight favor towards a more petite look, but like this year, what I've seen, and I am happy about it, is like they are rewarding some of the slightly taller, slightly more dense girls as well, and I know what they are looking for with bikini is that each person represents the criteria the best that individual person can, which it does create a little bit of a kind of like a uncertainty of like which way the criteria is going. But again, that can only be, it depends who shows up. If there's a lineup of girls and they are, slightly bigger, slightly more full, a little bit more dense looking, and there's no one else that is, smaller that meets the criteria well, then it's going to go to one of these other girls. I think where people have to be careful is people start to just automatically think, oh my gosh, bikini's getting bigger, it's getting more dense, it's getting more lean. But, we haven't been told that yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Told the criteria has changed.
Right.
But I think, I think it's good. I think that I think that it's good to have that little bit more room in bikini. It does give, other girls that might be, just biomechanically a little bit different, the opportunity to also do well.
Yep. And it, especially with like wellness, there's most of the females that come to me now that want to compete are wanting to do wellness, and the thing that people wanting to go in that category need to understand is this is the only class where they are actively looking for a non-symmetrical human, right? Meaning, like, you need to have good muscle mass up top and you need to be conditioned up top, but they want your legs so disproportionate from your upper body that it's like, whoa. Like, so if you're not a girl that has just centaur legs or can't develop centaur legs over a period of time, I definitely think that the bikini or fit model or even one of the more muscular divisions, depending on what your shape looks like, is probably the route for you to go. The next place that my brain goes with this is what you kind of already brought up just a minute ago, is like, definitely need to have the conversation with females about what they are looking to get out of this and what they are willing to put into this, right? Because when it comes to like a guy deciding like, hey, I'm going to cross that bridge from natural to enhanced, there's usually not too many like really bad things. So there's outliers for sure, where like you can take some shit and something will mess you up really quickly. There's definitely that. But the risk is way higher when we look at females when they cross that bridge. So how do you go about that conversation, talking with females about what the inherent risks are for going into particular divisions that might have to more heavily rely on PEDs?
Yeah, I think that, man, well, like so far today, I haven't had many females at all that have wanted to go down that route or have needed to go down that route. I always say, like, especially if the goal is bikini, you can get a super far way without needing to use anything. If you're training right, eating right, if you're being coached right, man, there's so much potential you can fulfill without having to need it. If you get to a point then where it's going to get more competitive, say I've turned all my bikini pros natural, by the way. So, say then you get to that point and you do want to push up that next level and be competitive, then it's kind of like you can have a crack naturally if you want. But if you want to make sure that you're not looked past, then okay, look, like the reality is like you're going to probably need to use something.
Yep.
what I always say is that you shouldn't need to use much. And so then we'll discuss what that might look like. For other divisions, I will say off the bat, other than fit model, if a girl is wanting to do wellness, I'm like, look, man, the criteria is set now. The standard is set, and it's not just something that people can kind of roll into. It's hard.
Yes.
It's hard as an amateur, and it's harder as a pro. And so if you want to do this and you want to get that out of it, like, it's not, you kind of just have to decide to step over that line, and then this is what that is going to look like. And that conversation on its own has been enough for some people to go, nah, I want to do bikini instead.
Yep. 100%, man.
They know that they can succeed somewhat. They get to spend more time, with their feet in it, deciding like if this is something they want to continue on, can do for a good amount of time, and then maybe, in that time be processing if they want to take it to that next level. Yeah.
Yep. It's now, again, breaking down the female categories again, I think fit model and bikini, 100%. You can go natural. You can go pro naturally in those. But like when we start looking at wellness, figure, physique, and bodybuilding, it's like the reality of that is like, unless you are just a genetic anomaly, it's probably not going to happen. You're going to have to use something in those categories. And it's the unfortunate reality is the Brazilians have entered the chat when it comes to wellness, right?
Yeah.
And like when we look at the Brazilian people, like they are genetically built for wellness. Like those girls, is just like that's the ideal. That's what we're looking for, right? When they thought of wellness, they just thought of the country of Brazil. And and the other reality to this is like those girls are not afraid to take some shit, right? And like I've heard some pretty wild conversations about what some of these girls are taking. And the unfortunate reality of that is like everyone else that is not that genetic anomaly now has to go, well, if they're doing it, I have to do that plus. And that is a recipe for a lot of dysfunction pretty quickly, right? It's not like this is going to be dysfunction 30 years down the road. Like, no, this could be disruption in the next couple of months, right? If you are dumb, if you have someone who is giving you dumb advice, like a female using trenbolone, which I have heard way too much recently. And do you go like, how do you try to communicate that to a female that's looking at dabbling into that world about like what long-term ramifications can occur with this? Because they have such a short window to not only compete, but they also have a short window to reproduce, right? So like, how do you manage that conversation when you do bring it up to them?
Man, it's just every card is on the table. So it's like, you want to compete now, but where do you see your life in 5 years? What are other plans for your life? And are you happy to sacrifice anything in there? And so it's just really just being open about it. Obviously you want to coach them well, and you're going to do the absolute best you can to look after them, but there's always going to be that risk. Like, this stuff is a bit of a grenade, and some people might be able to dodge the frags and others won't. It's it's some people are hypersensitive to it. You might be that one person that responds negatively to the smallest amount of something, and you don't know until you do it. And that can be with every other precaution in place as well. So it's that's how this discussion goes, man. It's just everything on the table. We need to be serious about this. What I like, the same I guess advice that you give to a younger guy that wants to be a bodybuilder, right? And it's like, max out your natural ceiling first. Like, lock in, be serious about it, get everything else right, because you will surprise yourself with how far you can get. And that's going to be beneficial for a woman as well, especially if they're wanting to do wellness. So it's kind of like, give it a little bit more time early on. The funny thing is, right, is like if a person locks in, that time frame doesn't actually end up needing to be super long. Like, you can achieve a lot in a small window if a person is like locked in on it. And then from that point, then readdress the situation. We're lucky back home where we've started being able to give people pro cards naturally. So we will run a natural show along with the regular show as well.
That's great.
So nationals, you've got natural nationals and nationals. And so there is an opportunity to turn pro naturally.
Yep.
And you can build a very respectable physique in wellness naturally. But then, it's where do you want to go with it? If you want to be, competing against the other IFBB Pro wellness girls that you aspire to be like, the same conversation is going to need to be had at some point. So,
yep. Yeah, I completely agree. And it's the hardest part about that conversation is when you get someone who's young, right? Because like you give me an 18-year-old and they don't have any concept to what's going to happen in the next week, right? They don't tend to look that far in the future, right? It's we lost lights. But like they don't tend to look that far in the future. And like, look, I ended up having a kid at 26, right? If you had asked me at 26 before he came, hey Nick, are you ready for kids? I'm like, fuck no, not at all. Right. So like that's 26. Imagine this conversation with an 18-year-old, right? It's like they're not planning to have kids. They're not worried about that. They're like, oh, I'm invincible right now. So like it's easy for us to sit back and go, hey, you shouldn't do this because maybe you want to have kids or these repercussions or whatever. But like in the 18-year-old mentality, like, nah, fuck that. I want to do this. I saw my favorite influencer doing this. And it's like, okay, cool. Let's table this for now. And like you said, try to push them towards like, get as much out of this as you can. Just see if it's actually something you really love. Right. Because that part also ties back to something that I think is kind of an underlying thing here is like, you can't sprint this journey, right? It's not possible, right? So like, why do you feel the need to like go from natural to like taking as much as you possibly can? And that goes for men and women, right? So it's like, if we have no data on like how your body responds to anything at all, why would I put you on some crazy cycle? Let's just test something very simple. Can you handle TRT? Cool. You can. Now we escalate that a little bit. We go up a little bit with that. It's like, we just be smart about these things. Just monitor how the body goes and don't try to rush this thing. Because it goes back to the thing of like we talked about at the beginning of like the people that feel like they have to compete every single year. Right. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with taking 2 years away from the stage because one, you can take your time to build the physique properly. So we don't end up in a position where your physique goes beyond what they want, the criteria, right? Like that's, I have yet to see a female that's eaten so much that they've blown their stomach out. But like, that's what we see with men, right? Is like, they're trying to chase this thing of being bigger and bigger and bigger, and they're pushing drugs, they're pushing food, they're training harder, they're doing all these different things and not understanding that they're adding all this stress to the system, which is now creating an environment where now all of a sudden they got a bloated stomach and they can't fix it. So it's just slow it down.
Yeah, that's it's funny you bring that up because this year is the first time I've ever seen bikini girls with blown out stomachs, and I seen that this year, and
That's sad.
That's crazy, man. And because you know what is going into creating that, and it's kind of like, man, this is bikini, and you don't need to do that to create that look. And not only do you have a blown out stomach, you're too big for the criteria now. And so, like, what are you going to do from here? Are you going to push up a class, or are you going to? It's hard to bring it back.
Yes.
Downsize when you've gone that far. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely is. So it's like, look, just let your body do what it's going to do. Like, let's not force a response. Like, I can understand that we want to try and set up a timeline on certain things, but sometimes timelines need to be adjusted. And you can't be emotionally attached to that timeline. Right. And I think that's where like a lot of people get crumbled is because they're like, oh, I'm going to compete next year at this time. And like this, everything's focused on this. And it's like, versus focusing on like, I'm going to compete when it's right. I'm going to compete when I can bring my absolute best. Right. And that comes back to the mindset of like, are you doing this for fun? Or are you doing this because you want to take it seriously and continue to climb? Those are two completely different things. If you want to do it for fun, let's get on stage any fucking time you want. Yeah. If you are trying to climb, we need to be smart about this, right? Now, I think that conversation in itself kind of transition us into the second half of what you were talking about, of like, when we see girls dieted, we see really aggressive under eating, and then trying to feed them like they're a super heavy bodybuilder. So talk about kind of what you've been seeing as far as that's concerned, since you brought up that topic and it's been on your mind recently.
Yeah, man, like it's something that I see happening more and more and more, and it's funny because I feel like it's kind of, I think it's like, it's common sense, right? Like, if you're a coach and you're prepping a bikini girl, even, wellness, yeah, I think that they do need to push a little bit harder, but from a condition perspective, you should know what the criteria is. And so when you see coaches that are absolutely like stripping a bikini girl down to like, there is no need for them to go through it to that extreme, to then be in a position where they have to load so drastically to try and fill out and get filled back up again. It's kind of like, there was no need to do that in the beginning, but now also you have got actually no control over that peak process. Like, you actually have let go of that balloon, and you're kind of just like crossing your fingers and hoping that girl loads. And it's like, man, you can be a 300-pound bodybuilder. You know how many, like, what you need to have in place to make sure that your body is going to reload glycogen properly. And it's kind of like, that's not being applied to the girls that are being put. Like, it's crazy, man. When you see someone get so depleted and then they're on 400, 500, 600, 700 more grams of carbs per day in the last week to try and fill out for a show, and like, they're not filling out, their body's stressing out. You can see that their stomach's unhappy. So they've got inflammation there as well, because, as soon as the digestive tract's not happy, you're going to get retention. It's just, it's not gelling, it's not cohesive, it's not working.
Right.
And then you get a girl that is not going to get the result that she wants, and is likely, going to have a skewed feeling off, like, if they can even keep doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, I'm sure you've seen it time and time again, because I know I have, of like, just the individual who has been overly chronically dieted. When you go to try and put food back in that system, the body just starts to run through it, right?
Yep.
Because it's super compensating. It's going, holy shit, we got an influx, and we've been stripped of everything for so long. Like, what do we do with this? And it starts to panic, right? It starts to not know how to handle it, and it just like, it doesn't matter how much carbs or fats you put in, it just keeps rolling and keeps rolling and keeps rolling. And it's one of those things where it's like, if your only metric of success is like continuing to pull carbs and push cardio and that kind of thing, you're going to set yourself up for a position where that person does not now respond when we try to get them to fill back out. And like, I think your part about the criteria of bodybuilding, like, you need to have a good understanding of what that is like, I'll be the first to tell you, is like, I've not worked with a ton of bikini athletes because I don't understand the class. Like, it's hard for me to judge. Like, that half the time I'm like, that girl looks great, she's in third call. It's like, all right, well, fuck me. It's like it, you need to make sure how conditioned does this girl need to be, what type of muscularity does she need to be, and what do they want the peak to look like on stage. And you need to look at the girls who make it to the Olympia. Those are the girls who create the environment of the ultimate end point of bikini. So like, look at the top 10. That's what you should be striving for, as far as condition, as far as the peak, as far as the muscularity, the symmetry, all those things. And I think people are just going, no, this person needs to be inside out, because that's how they run all their other categories. And that's just not, they're not looking for them to be that anatomy picture. You know what I'm saying? My brain just shut down real hard on that, but I got it out eventually.
Yeah, you nailed it though. That's it. And like, if you flip back to then, like, we're talking about criteria, it is that, show to show might be different depending on who's there. And so you might see someone that may not actually be, comparable to a top 10 Olympian, but they win because that's what's there. But the criteria is still like, that is what you should be looking at. And if you turn up to a show and that is the criteria, that is the package you bring, and it maybe doesn't get noticed the way that you want it to be noticed, it's just a matter of like asking the judges why. Like, figuring it out and working it out from their feedback and going from there. But you can't just disregard the criteria. I think that, each person might need to do a little thing. The judges might want to see certain things from each athlete that they think will help them, stand out in the criteria more. There'll be judges that have a slight bias to a certain aspect of the criteria, where it's maybe they do like a little bit more tightness, whereas some might like a little bit more fullness. They might like it to be a little bit softer, so that maybe there's a little bit more density, appearing. But you can't just like try and max it out. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I feel like it's such a different like realm of how you approach coaching an athlete, right? Because it's like, yeah, they need to get in condition, but it's like they don't need to be peeled out, shredded, striated everywhere kind of condition, right? And I mean, with the level of muscularity in that category, like it'd be difficult to be peeled out that way, right? But you definitely have to make sure that you understand, like, when is it time to start pumping the brakes? When is this time to start like relaxing this a little bit versus it being this all out, like, we got to get tighter, we got to get tighter, we got to get tighter. And that also transitions into the conversation we had earlier of like, maybe this person isn't fit for this category. If you need to push them down that hard to have them look as good as they do, to where they're striated out of their mind, maybe they need to get a little bit bigger and go into figure or something along those categories or along those lines, rather than trying to be this peeled out bikini competitor, right? It's like, it's a little ridiculous.
The competition isn't who's the leanest. It's
yes.
And sometimes you're battling the athlete because they like that look, and you got to hold them back. That's not what they're going to be looking for.
Yep.
And I think, man, like there's, I got a ton of girls, and each one I've got, sometimes there's a plethora of different, ways that I'll get them to their end look. And some of them I am pulling down earlier because I need to get them leaner earlier and then kind of reverse back from there. Whereas other girls, it is just it's a steady, just coming down, and just making sure that the timing's right on the other end. Pull back, start putting more food in to load them, knowing they're only going, they're between 45 and 55 kilos. They're not big girls. Excuse my kilos talk, but
you're making me do math.
It doesn't need to take. It's not going to take 400 grams of carbs a day to fill them out.
Like I would hope not.
Yeah,
we did something wrong if that's the case.
Yeah. It's man, and this, I mean, other people are this is going to hurt some feelings.
Do it.
It's people that think that that's the way that it's going to go, and there's going to be some girls that say, I need this amount of carbs per day, but it's kind of like, nah. I think if the process was handled differently, you'd probably find that you may be manipulating, you may be utilizing between maybe 100 to at a most 300 grams of carbs. Like it's
yeah, I mean, there's certainly going to be cases where like people just need more food, right? Like there's definitely cases like that. But like, again, like I said earlier, it's like I'm not trying to treat a bikini athlete like she's a super heavy body weight, super heavy bodybuilder. Like I don't need to feed you like that. It's like it's interesting because like I feel like so many guys, this perspective is like if my fill out is not 1,000 grams of carbs, I did it wrong. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, why would it need to be that, right? And if you're having to use that much, I'm assuming that something went fucking wrong. like unless you're Jay Cutler, unless you're that large of a human. Like, unless you're 300 pounds on stage, you're probably not going to need that much food. Like, I mean, I've certainly had to use that much food with certain individuals, but they're few and far between, and it's pretty obvious when you need to use that much.
Yeah. I think that probably a lot of it is coming down to also the the PEDs that are probably being in use as well. And then it's kind of like, man, like, what is the if this is the extreme you're having to go to, what is the point of even having that in there?
Yeah, and those like crazy hard deficits alongside like crazy hard pushes back in food also creates kind of like a tumultuous hormone profile too, right? Especially the aggressive dieting side of things is like there's I for sure have had to push women really low on food. Like it sometimes it has to happen. Like my natural figure competitor right now is like, we're on the cusp of her eating protein and veg, and that's about it. And like that does have to happen, but it's not like I'm doing that stretch for long, excessive periods of time. It's like we have to make sure that there's an ebb and flow with this of like, hey, right now it's time for you to be flat and kind of eat some shit for a bit and be really fatigued. But then at some point it goes, all right, cool. Now I need to pull that fatigue off of you for a little bit so that we can continue to be productive forward. Because like you said earlier in this podcast, is a healthy body is a happy body. And if we're in a chronically low state of calories, you are not going to have a healthy hormone cycle. Your thyroid's going to be fucked. Your estrogen to progesterone is going to be fucked. Your testosterone is probably going to be fucked. Like there's a lot of things that cascades down that now makes continuing to push you more forward way more difficult.
Yeah, I agree. There's going to be times for some people where they're going to have to get really uncomfortable. But,
Yep.
you and I know that, like, sometimes that's only for a really short window. So it's, things are stubborn, things aren't shifting. You can't, try the other way yet. You need to get them down. So it's okay. Like, we'll do this hard. We're going to pull a bit of food out. It's going to suck a bit, but maybe it's only for a week or two.
Yep.
And it gets them moving, the weight comes off them, and then you can kind of go into that reverse from there. Man, and if you've done that, say at like 12 weeks out, now you've got still 10 weeks up your sleeve where things are happening more smooth again. And it's not like that this is for the whole duration of that 12 weeks. It's a good point to bring up, because I know that some people will sometimes freak out if like at 12 weeks they're on X amount of calories already. And they might think that, some coaches do keep them on that and lower and lower and lower for the remaining 12 weeks, but a good coach will utilize that period. And then, you're not going to leave that person on that lower calories for that long.
Right.
And it actually is like, at 12 weeks out, you're just, kind of just getting into prep. You've still got good energy. You've still got good drive. We hit it hard at the front, and then it makes the other end so much more smooth.
Yep. Yeah. Kuzo was the one that introduced me to that thought process of like what he called a 3-phase prep, right? Where it's like we start far enough out to where we can break this up into a couple chunks, right? We have the really aggressive fat loss off the rip, right? Because you're not fatigued, you're not super stressed out, you're not really close to show, you still have a lot of food. So let's get aggressive off the rip, right? And that lasts for however long the time period is. Then you go to like into a maintenance phase, right? And you stay there for a number of weeks, right? That way the body has time to restabilize, get its normal faculties back together. That can also be a time that correlates with coming off cycle for a female. Like you run these short periods of bursts of anabolics as they're needed in correlation with the phase that you're in, versus like, oh, you started prep 20 weeks out, cool, run Anavar the whole 20 weeks. It's like, no, fucking idiot. Like, don't. So it's like we can line these things up to make sure that like we give your body the push it needs, but we also give it time to like resettle, because like you and I both know that to pull fatigue off a guy is like, oh, cool, I'll feed you for a couple days, right? And then it's right back on and we're moving forward. With a female, it's like we got to spend a couple of weeks letting them chill, right? Because if we don't, those hormone levels never restabilize, right?
Yeah.
And if we have to do that at 4 weeks out, that we have a problem, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, doing it closer to like 10 to 12 weeks out where everything can be fine, we're not going to lose a lot of ground, gives us the opportunity to not have to run them into the ground where it's cool. I'm pulling more food today. Pulling more food today. Do more cardio tomorrow. It's like we don't have to do that if we set this thing up correctly.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's it, man. It's definitely a person to person thing. I've got, clients like athletes like Kate's one of them, where she's asking me when are we going to go into prep? When are we going into prep? And I'm like, yo, it's 6 weeks out. And she's like, Frank, when are we pulling? But I'm like, I know how she's going to respond, man. And I know because, she's on with her, I don't call it off season. I call it improvement season. She's setting herself up to have like the best window for prep. And it's like, I know how she's going to respond. I've worked with her I've gone around with this so many times with her now that I know that it's only going to take me X amount of weeks to have her in the right condition, because she's not got out of shape. I know how her body's responding, and that's the kind of scenario you want to create when you then go from a show into like reverse and off season. Is that, if you want to avoid the kind of like seesawing, is to like stay locked in.
Yep.
And then that the prep part, it gets better and better and better. There's less variables, but if you're not like that, and even there is still also a chance, like, and I like to tell this to people as well. Some coaches will say like, you should have, record. Obviously, you're going to record, each prep and how things went, but your body this year is largely going to be different to it was the year before. And so you're dealing with a different beast. And
Yep.
so, maybe some things might be similar, but man, I'm, not afraid to tell people like that was last year. Like this is different.
Yes, 100%. And it's a really good point for us to kind of wrap up on here is like two things is like one, if you're not putting in the work, nothing that we do is going to work, right? If you're half-assing anything, I'm not going to get the response that I want, right? It's just not going, your body's not going to give me what I need from it, right? And then the second point there is like giving a coach an opportunity, giving them time to learn your body. You're not going to hit it every time. There's always going to be weird stuff, right? And as long as like you guys are moving through this process and figuring things out along the way and using those data points to understand how to build the next system, is like that's where the magic really happens. Because like I've got a number of athletes that I'm like, I know when I do this is going to happen because I've seen it too many times to count. So I know what works, and then we keep moving forward versus like the person who goes, hey, I'm 12 weeks out. Can you prep me? It's like, well, I'll fucking figure it. I'll try. I'll do my best, but it's not going to be my best work ever, unless you're just a phenomenal responder, But anything you want to wrap up on there, Frank?
I think you nailed it, man. I think like you kind of briefly just said, there's, people that can be in an awesome position. And, sometimes like life will just life. And, that might mean like you might have a plan in place, and then that plan needs to change because, the circumstances have changed, and now that person's body is responding differently. It's really fascinating. I feel how certain things can just totally change how a person is responding. But, and like, external factors, but, being sharp enough to kind of know what you need to do. You've done this also with so many other people, that this might not have been the approach that you were going to take, but that if you do this other thing instead, you can get them back on the track and keep going from there.
Yep. Completely agree, man. Plug your socials and stuff. Where can people find you?
Yeah. So I'm pretty much just an Instagram man. So it's just Frank _Carroll. Yeah.
Awesome. And that's where people can find like applications to sign up with you and all that stuff.
Yeah, man, all the stuff is in my bio there. I'm not the most like tech savvy person, so I'll keep it simple. Hey,
I understand, dude. I'm the same way. I've barely kind of stitched this stuff together on my own, but dude, I appreciate you so much, man. Thanks for your time today. And it's been great having you at the gym. So I look forward to seeing you guys over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, right back at you, bro.
All right, homie. Have a good rest of your night.
You too, man.